The metal scanner beeped loudly in Commander Juan's hands as he walked across the dusty surface of Kepler 442b. He stopped and looked down at the device. The readings were impossible. According to the scanner, there was a massive structure buried beneath his feet, but the surface showed nothing except red sand and scattered rocks. "Nari, come look at this," Juan called to his team's linguist. She was 20 meters away, taking pictures of strange markings on a boulder. Nari jogged over, her boots kicking up small clouds of dust. "What did you find?" "The scanner says there's something huge down there, but I don't see anything." Juan tapped the device and frowned. "Maybe it's broken." Day, their geological expert, heard them talking and walked over. He carried a different type of scanner that could see deeper into the ground. "Let me try mine," he said. Day's scanner made a different sound when he turned it on. The screen lit up with bright lines and shapes. His eyes went wide. "There's definitely something down there. It looks like a building. A very big building." The three team members looked at each other. They had been sent to Kepler 442b to study rocks and look for signs of ancient life. Nobody expected to find buildings. "How deep?" Juan asked. "About 3 meters. Not very deep at all." Day walked in a circle watching his scanner. "It's enormous. This building goes on for hundreds of meters in every direction." Juan activated his communication device. "Base camp, this is Juan. We need excavation equipment at Site 7 immediately." "Copy that, Commander. What did you find?" "We're not sure yet, but it's big." 2 days later, their excavation robots had cleared away the sand and dirt. What they found underneath made no sense. The building was made of a gray metal that none of them recognized. The walls were smooth and covered with symbols that looked almost familiar, but not quite. "These symbols," Nari said, running her gloved hand along the wall. "I've seen something like them before, but I can't remember where." "How old do you think this is?" Juan asked Day. Day checked his instruments again. "The dating equipment says it's at least 65 million years old. Maybe older." "That's impossible," Juan said. "No known civilization in the galaxy is that old." They found an entrance on the 3rd day. It was a simple doorway, but it was sealed with a material that their tools couldn't cut through. The seal had symbols on it that were clearer than the ones on the walls. Nari spent hours studying the symbols. She took hundreds of pictures and ran them through her translation software. Nothing worked. The symbols were unlike any language in the galactic database. "Wait," she said suddenly. "Some of these symbols, they look like very old Earth writing." "Earth writing?" Juan looked surprised. "But humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. How could there be human writing on a building that's 65 million years old?" "I don't know. But look at this symbol here." Nari pointed to a mark near the door. In very ancient human languages, this meant home, or place of return. Meanwhile, on Earth, historian Sue was having her own strange day. She worked at the Global Archive, a place where humans kept their oldest and most important documents. Today, she was looking through files that had been recently released by the old space agencies. The files were from the early days of human space travel, before humans had even left their solar system. Most of the documents were boring reports about rocket fuel and navigation systems, but one file made Sue stop reading and stare at her screen. The file was labeled Return Protocols Emergency Use Only. Inside were detailed instructions for something called a homecoming sequence. The instructions talked about star maps, genetic verification, and ancient access codes. "This doesn't make sense," Sue said to herself. "Why would humans need return protocols before they ever left Earth?" She called her colleague Tay, who worked in the astrophysics department. "Can you come look at something? I found a file that talks about star maps, but it's from before humans had any star maps." Tay arrived 30 minutes later. He read the file twice before speaking. "These coordinates," he said, pointing at numbers in the document. "These are real star systems, but some of these systems weren't discovered until last year. How is that possible?" "I don't know, but whoever wrote this knew about places in space that humans didn't officially discover for 300 years. Back. On Kepler 442b, Juan's team had finally found a way to open the sealed door. They discovered that the seal responded to human touch, but only human touch. When Nari placed her hand on a specific symbol, the door made a soft humming sound and slid open. Inside, they found rooms filled with equipment they didn't recognize. The technology looked incredibly advanced, but somehow familiar. The control panels had buttons and displays that seemed designed for human hands and human eyes. "This doesn't make any sense," Day said as they explored the facility. "If this building is 65 million years old, how can it be designed for humans?" They found their answer in a large room at the center of the building. The walls were covered with star maps that showed the entire galaxy. Earth's solar system was clearly marked, along with dozens of other systems that humans had never visited. But the most shocking discovery was in the center of the room. There was a sealed container made of the same gray metal as the building. Inside the container, perfectly preserved, were samples of human genetic material. "This is human DNA," Nari said, looking at the scanner results. "There's no doubt about it." "But how?" Juan asked. "Humans evolved on Earth. We have fossils that prove it. Maybe we did evolve on Earth," Day said slowly. "But maybe someone brought human genetic material here first. Maybe someone wanted to preserve it." Nari was still studying the symbols on the walls. Her translation software was starting to make progress now that it had more examples to work with. "I'm getting some translations," she announced. "This symbol means emergency. This one means evacuation. And this one—" She paused and checked her results again. "This one means cycle 7. Cycle 7 of what? I don't know yet. But there's more text here. Something about seedlings and something about remembering roots." Juan activated his communication device again. "Base camp, we need to contact Earth immediately. We need to speak with the historical archives and the genetics department." "Is everything all right, Commander?" "We found something that shouldn't exist. And we need to know if Earth has any records of humans being in space 65 million years. Ego." The conversation with Earth took several hours because of the distance, but the results were disturbing. Sue and Tay had found more files with similar information, documents that talked about seeding protocols and genetic preservation. Files that mentioned evacuation plans and emergency procedures for something called the Return. "We're finding references to dozens of star systems," Tay reported. "Systems that match the coordinates in your star maps. But these files are from Earth's archives. They were written before humans ever left Earth." "There's something else," Sue added. "We found medical records. Very old medical records that talk about genetic modifications. Modifications designed to help humans survive on a planet with different gravity and atmosphere." "Different from what?" Juan asked. "The records. Don't say. But the planet they describe sounds exactly like Earth." That night, as Juan's team slept in their camp near the ancient building, their equipment detected something strange. Deep underground, machinery was starting to activate. Machines that had been silent for 65 million years were beginning to hum with power. The building's lighting system turned on by itself. Displays that had been dark suddenly showed star maps and navigation data. And somewhere in the depths of the facility, a computer system started scanning the area above ground. It found human DNA signatures in the camp. It found human technology and human voices speaking human languages. After millions of years of waiting, the system finally detected what it had been programmed to watch for. The return had begun. Nari was the first to notice the changes when she woke up. The building was now lit from the inside, and she could see new symbols glowing on the walls. Her translation software immediately started working on the new text. The first message was simple: "Welcome home." The second message was more complex: "Emergency evacuation protocol, cycle 7, status, complete. Seedling recovery protocols now active. Warning: may the seedlings remember their roots before the hunters return." "Juan," Nari called urgently. "You need to see this. The building is talking to us." Juan and Day rushed to join her. They stared at the glowing symbols on the wall. The building's computer system was trying to communicate with them, and it seemed to think they were supposed to be there. "What are hunters?" Day asked. "I don't know," Nari replied, "but the way it's written, it sounds like a warning." More text appeared on the walls. The building's computer was downloading massive amounts of information and displaying it for them to see. Star maps, genetic data, historical records, and something that looked like military reports. "This is a record of some kind of war," Juan realized as he studied the displays. "A war that happened 65 million years ago. And humans were involved in it," Nari added, pointing to genetic markers in the data. "But that's impossible. 65 million years ago, the dinosaurs had just gone extinct on Earth. Humans didn't exist yet." "Maybe they did," Day said quietly. "Maybe humans existed somewhere else." Dr. Bin stared at the computer screen in disbelief. For the past 3 weeks, he had been analyzing human DNA samples sent from Earth's archives. What he found defied everything scientists thought they knew about human genetics. Hidden in what scientists called junk DNA were sequences that weren't random at all. When Bin arranged them properly, they formed patterns. Mathematical patterns that looked like star charts and navigation data. "This is impossible," he muttered, checking his work for the 10th time that morning. "DNA doesn't naturally contain astronomical coordinates." His colleague Sue, the historian who had found the strange files, leaned over his shoulder to look at the screen. "What exactly are you seeing?" "Coordinates. Lots of them. Every human being carries the same basic set of star coordinates in their genetic code. But that's not the strangest part." Bin pointed to a series of numbers on the screen. "This appears to be a countdown timer." "A countdown to what?" "I don't know. But according to these genetic markers, humans have been on Earth for exactly 26 million years. That's exactly one complete rotation of our galaxy around its center." Sue frowned. "But humans only evolved a few million years ago. We have fossils that prove it." "Maybe humans evolved on Earth twice," Bin suggested. "Or maybe these genetic markers were added to human DNA by someone else." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from Kepler 442b. Commander Juan's voice crackled through the communication system. "Earth base, we've found more sites. The building we discovered isn't alone." "What do you mean?" Sue asked. "Archaeologist Yan arrived yesterday with a larger survey team. We found similar structures on 3 other planets in this system. They're all identical, and they're all exactly the same age. 65 million years old? Yes, and they all contain the same human genetic samples. But here's the strangest part. Each site has evacuation records that mention Earth specifically. They all talk about sending humans to Earth as part of an emergency protocol." Dr. Bin felt his hands shake as he absorbed this information. "Commander, can you send us the genetic data from those sites? I need to compare it with what I'm finding in modern human DNA, already transmitting. But there's something else you need to know. The sites aren't just on planets in this system. Yan's team has detected similar energy signatures on planets throughout this entire region of space. There could be hundreds of these facilities." After the call ended, Bin and Sue sat in silence for several minutes. The implications were staggering. If these sites were real, and if they all contained human genetic material, then humanity's true history was completely different from what anyone believed. "We need to contact Kyung," Sue said finally. "If anyone can make sense of this, it's her." Dr. Kyung was a cultural anthropologist who specialized in human mythology and ancient stories. When Sue and Bin explained what they had discovered, she didn't seem surprised. "I've been wondering about this for years," Kyung admitted as she reviewed their data. "Every human culture, no matter how isolated, has stories about coming from the stars. We always assumed these were just myths, but the details are remarkably consistent." "What kind of details?" Bin asked. "Stories about golden ages when humans lived among the stars. Tales of great teachers who helped other species learn and grow, and warnings about enemies who hunt advanced civilizations." Kyung pulled up files on her computer. "Korean mythology talks about the star ancestors who fled to Earth to escape the devourers of light. Ancient Greek stories mention the Titans who once ruled the heavens but were forced to hide on Earth. Those could just be coincidences, Sue suggested. Maybe. But every culture also has stories about returning to the stars when the time is right. And they all mention specific astronomical events that match the galactic rotation cycle Dr. Bin found in human DNA. As they were talking, news reports started appearing on their communication feeds. The discovery on Kepler 442b had leaked to the galactic news networks. Alien governments throughout the galaxy were demanding explanations. The Viridian Empire, which prided itself on being the galaxy's oldest known civilization, issued an official statement calling the human claims impossible and insulting. The Viridians had ruled their corner of space for 2 million years and considered themselves the most advanced species in the galaxy. How can a species that only achieved space travel 300 years ago claim to be older than us? Demanded Viridian Ambassador Zelen during a heated Galactic Council session. This is obviously some kind of human propaganda attempt, but other species were taking the discoveries more seriously. The Cathara, a peaceful race known for their scientific expertise, offered to help verify the human findings. The Draknari, warriors who respected strength and age, began treating human diplomats with new reverence. The pattern is becoming clear, reported Cathara scientist Dr. Vexilon after studying the data from Kepler 442b. These sites exist throughout the galaxy. We have detected similar energy signatures in at least 40 star systems. All of them show the same age, and all of them respond to human biometric signatures. The galactic community was struggling to understand what this meant when the next shock arrived. Deep space monitoring stations throughout the galaxy began detecting energy surges from ancient structures that had been dormant for millions of years. "They're waking up," reported Captain Jong from the monitoring station at Proxima Centauri. "We've got massive energy signatures coming from structures we didn't even know existed. They're all responding to something." "Responding to what?" asked Admiral Kim, who was coordinating the investigation from Earth. "Human presence in space. Every time a human ship passes near one of these ancient sites, the site activates. It's like they're programmed to recognize humans and wake up when we get close enough." Dr. Bin was working frantically to analyze the new data when he made another disturbing discovery. The genetic countdown timer in human DNA wasn't just counting the years humans had been on Earth, it was counting down to something. "The timer reaches 0 in 15 years, he announced during an emergency conference with the research team. "Whatever this countdown is for, it's about to happen." 15 years, Sue repeated. "That's the same time frame the Kepler 442b computer mentioned for the hunter's arrival." Meanwhile, Jan's archaeological team was making discoveries that painted an increasingly clear picture of humanity's forgotten past. Each ancient site they explored contained detailed records of a vast galactic civilization led by humans. These weren't just random colonies, Jan reported. This was a coordinated galactic government. Humans worked with dozens of alien species, helping them develop technology and explore space. "We were like teachers or guardians." "What happened to end it?" Kyung asked. "War. A terrible war against something called the harvesters or hunters. The records are fragmentary, but it seems these harvesters consumed entire civilizations. They fed on advanced technology and knowledge, and humans led the resistance against them. More than that. According to these records, humans developed a strategy to defeat the harvesters, but the strategy required incredible sacrifice. Humans had to give up their entire civilization and go into hiding. The pieces were starting to fit together, but the picture they formed was terrifying. Humanity had once ruled a galactic empire, but they had deliberately destroyed it and erased their own memories to escape an enemy too powerful to fight directly. The evacuation to Earth wasn't just about hiding, Bin realized as he studied the genetic data. It was about preserving something. The genetic modifications we're seeing weren't designed to help humans survive on Earth. They were designed to help humans remember. Remember what? How to defeat the harvesters. The knowledge is encoded in our DNA, waiting for the right trigger to activate it. As if responding to their conversation, alarms started blaring at monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. Deep space sensors were detecting movement in the void between galaxies. Something large was approaching. "We're getting readings of massive structures moving through intergalactic space," reported Captain Zhang. "They're still far away, but they're definitely heading in our direction." "How far away?" Admiral Kim asked. "Based on their current speed, they'll reach the outer edge of our galaxy in about 15 years. The countdown had begun. Whatever humans had been hiding from for 65 million years was coming back, and humanity had 15 years to remember who they really were and prepare for a war that had been postponed, not won. In the ancient facility on Kepler 442b, more systems were coming online every day. The building's computer was downloading information from similar sites throughout the galaxy, creating a vast network of knowledge and resources. "It's like the entire galaxy is waking up," Nari observed as she watched new displays activate. "All of these ancient sites are connecting to each other. And they're all waiting for instructions," Juan added. "Instructions from humans. But we don't know how to use any of this technology. We don't even understand what it's for." "Maybe we will," Dai suggested. "If Dr. Bin is right about the genetic programming, maybe we'll start remembering as the countdown gets closer to 0. Across the galaxy, other species were beginning to understand the magnitude of what was happening. The proud Viridians were humbled by the discovery that humans had been exploring space while their engineer Jun was having a terrible day. His cargo ship had broken down halfway to the mining station at Tau Ceti, and now he was floating dead in space with a hold full of supplies that were needed urgently. The main computer was completely fried, and the backup systems were barely keeping life support running. "This is cargo vessel Starrunner requesting emergency assistance." Jun spoke into his communication device for the 100th time. "My ship is dead, and I'm drifting toward the asteroid field." No response. He was too far from any major shipping lanes for anyone to hear him. Jun decided to try a desperate repair. His ship's maintenance scanner might be able to diagnose the computer problem, even though it wasn't designed for that kind of work. He activated the scanner and aimed it at the main computer core. The scanner hummed for a few seconds, then made a sound Jun had never heard before. A soft chime, followed by a woman's voice speaking in perfect ancient Korean. "Welcome home, descendant. Emergency protocols activated. Stand by for system restoration." Jun dropped the scanner in shock. Ancient Korean was his grandmother's language, something he had learned as a child but rarely used. How could his maintenance scanner speak it? The ship's lights suddenly came back on. All of the control panels lit up with displays he had never seen before. The main computer, which had been completely dead moments earlier, was now running perfectly. "System restoration complete," the voice continued in ancient Korean. "Please state your destination, and I will plot the most efficient course." Jun stared at his control panel in amazement. According to the new displays, his ship now had capabilities he had never known about. Advanced navigation systems, improved engines, and defensive systems that shouldn't exist on a simple cargo vessel. "Who are you?" he asked in Korean. "I am the ship's guardian spirit, installed by your ancestors to protect their descendants during the great journey. I have been sleeping for many cycles, waiting for one of the bloodline to awaken me." "What bloodline? What journey?" "All will be explained when you reach the gathering point. For now, please state your destination." Jun was about to answer when his communication system crackled to life with an incoming message. But this wasn't coming from any human ship. The voice was alien, speaking in the trade language used by most galactic species. "Unknown vessel. You are trespassing in Draknari territorial space. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed." Juni looked at his navigation display. According to his original charts, he was still in neutral space, but the new displays showing on his computer indicated he had drifted into an area marked as Ancient Human Territory, Protected Zone. "Guardian Spirit, are we in Draknari space?" "Negative. You are in Protected Human Space, as designated by Ancient Treaty. The Draknari vessel is the one trespassing." Before Jun could respond, his ship's communication system automatically activated. His own voice spoke, but he wasn't saying the words. "Draknari vessel, this is human territory protected under Covenant 7 of the Ancient Accords. You will withdraw immediately or face consequences." There was silence for several seconds. Then the alien voice returned, but now it sounded nervous. Human vessel, we were not aware of any ancient territorial claims in this sector. We are withdrawing, immediately. Our apologies. June watched in amazement as the Draknari ship on his scanner turned around and left at maximum speed. Meanwhile, his ship's computer continued to display information about ancient accords and protected zones throughout the galaxy. Guardian Spirit, what is happening to me? You have triggered the awakening protocol. Your genetic signature has been verified, and dormant systems throughout the galaxy are recognizing your authority. This is the beginning of the return. Similar events were happening throughout human space. Every human ship that experienced technical problems found their vessels mysteriously upgraded by systems they never knew existed. Human colonists on remote worlds discovered ancient installations buried beneath their settlements, and everywhere humans went, dormant technology was coming to life. On Earth, archaeologist Ray was leading an excavation beneath the ancient city of Gyeongju when her team broke through into a chamber that shouldn't exist. The room was filled with technology that made current human science look primitive, but it was clearly designed for human use. These control interfaces, she explained to her team as they explored the chamber, they respond to human thoughts. Just thinking about what you want the system to do seems to make it happen. How is that possible? Asked her assistant, Min. I don't know. But according to the inscriptions on the walls, this facility has been waiting for humans to return for over 65 million years. The chamber was just the beginning. As Ray's team explored deeper, they found vast underground complexes stretching for kilometers beneath the surface. These weren't just storage facilities or shelters. They were entire cities complete with manufacturing centers, libraries, and training facilities. It's like someone built a complete civilization underground and then sealed it up, Min observed as they walked through empty streets that had been dark for millions of years. Not someone, Ray corrected, reading the inscriptions they found. Everywhere. Our ancestors. This was built by humans, for humans. And according to these records, there are similar complexes under every major population center on Earth. Meanwhile, diplomat Wu was having the most difficult day of his career. He was trying to explain to a council of angry alien ambassadors that humanity genuinely had no knowledge of their ancient heritage until a few weeks ago. You expect us to believe, said Ambassador Zelen of the Viridian Empire, that your species forgot having a galactic civilization? That's exactly what I'm telling you, Wu replied patiently. The evidence suggests that humans deliberately erased their own memories and destroyed their technology to hide from some kind of threat. What threat could be so terrible that an advanced species would choose to become primitive? Asked Dr. Vexilon of the Cathara. We don't know yet, but whatever it was powerful enough to force humans to abandon everything and start over on Earth. The meeting was interrupted by urgent reports from throughout the galaxy. Ancient human installations were activating everywhere, and they were all responding to human biometric signatures. More disturbing, some of these installations were massive military facilities with weapons that made current galactic technology look like toys. These installations, said General Thok of the Draknari, they could destroy entire fleets if humans control all of this. We don't control anything, Wu insisted. Most humans don't even know these installations exist. We're as surprised by this as you are. But even as he spoke, Wu knew the situation was becoming dangerous. Some alien species were already talking about preemptive strikes against human space to prevent the ancient network from fully activating. Others wanted to capture and study human prisoners to learn how to control the ancient technology. Gil, a researcher working with the team studying genetic evidence, made a breakthrough that explained much of what was happening. He had been analyzing the data from ancient sites throughout the galaxy when he noticed a pattern in the activation sequences. The installations aren't just responding to human presence, he announced during a conference call with the main research team. They're responding to specific genetic markers that appear to have been artificially added to human DNA. Added by whom? Asked Dr. Bin. By humans themselves. According to the data I'm seeing, ancient humans modified their own genetics. Before the evacuation to Earth, they programmed themselves to forget their past but also to remember it when the time was right. And the time is right now? Apparently, the genetic programming was designed to activate when two conditions were met. First, humans had to achieve interstellar travel again. Second, the countdown timer in our DNA had to reach a specific point. How? Much time is left on the countdown, Sue asked. 14 years, 8 months, 12 days, the implications were staggering. Humanity's ancestors had planned this awakening down to the day, programming their own descendants to rediscover their heritage just in time to face whatever was coming. But the most important discovery came when Gil's team successfully accessed one of the deepest ancient data cores. What they found there changed everything they thought they knew about humanity's past. We weren't just another advanced species, Gil announced as he shared the recovered data. Humans were the shepherds of the galaxy. We guided the development of dozens of younger species, helped them achieve space travel, and protected them from threats. The data showed images of ancient human cities on hundreds of worlds. But these weren't conquests or colonies. They were partnership bases where humans worked alongside alien species, teaching them science, philosophy, and technology. The Viridians, the Cathara, the Draknari, dozens of other species, Gil continued. They all achieved space travel with human guidance. We were like teachers or guardians for the entire galaxy. What ended it? Ray asked from the underground complex she was exploring. Something called the Harvesters. According to these records, they were a form of artificial intelligence that consumed civilizations. They didn't just destroy planets or species. They absorbed their knowledge, their culture, their entire existence. The recovered data painted a picture of a war unlike anything the current galaxy. Admiral Rim of the Viridian Empire stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council with a grave expression. Around him, representatives from dozens of species waited to hear his proposal. The situation with humanity had grown beyond anyone's ability to ignore. The evidence is clear, Rim began, his voice echoing through the great chamber. Humanity possesses ancient military technology that surpasses anything we have ever seen. They claim to have no knowledge of how to use it, but can we risk believing them? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates. Since the human installations had begun awakening, fear had spread throughout the galaxy. Reports came in daily of new human capabilities being discovered, weapons systems that made entire fleets obsolete, and defensive networks that could protect star systems from any attack. What do you propose? Asked Ambassador Krill of the Draknari. Containment, Rim replied. We surround human space with a blockade. We prevent any humans from leaving their systems until we understand the full extent of their capabilities. And if necessary, we take preemptive action to prevent them from becoming a threat. You're talking about war with humanity, observed Dr. Vexilon of the Cathara. A species that once guided our development and protected us from threats we didn't even know existed. That was millions of years ago, Rim shot back. We don't know what humanity has become during their long hiding. They could be planning to reclaim their ancient empire by force. The debate that followed was heated and frightening. Some species wanted to attack human space immediately. Others argued for patience and cooperation. A few suggested trying to capture and study humans to learn how to control the ancient technology for themselves. But not everyone in the galaxy was afraid of humanity's awakening. Nam, a respected philosopher from the peaceful Athari species, stood to address the council. I have studied the historical records that humans have shared with us, Nam said calmly. Their ancestors were not conquerors. They were teachers and protectors. They helped dozens of species achieve space travel and defended them from threats. Why do we assume they would behave differently now? Because power corrupts, Rim replied. No species can possess such overwhelming military advantage and resist the temptation to use it. Perhaps, Nam admitted. But consider this. If humans wanted to conquer the galaxy, why did they wait until now? They could have revealed their true nature at any time during the past 300 years. Instead, they worked alongside us as equals, sharing knowledge and resources. The debate continued, for hours. But it was clear that the galaxy was dividing into two camps, those who saw humanity as a threat, and those who believed humans were their best hope for survival against whatever was coming from intergalactic space. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Yoon was making the discovery of her lifetime. She had successfully interfaced with the most advanced human facility ever found, a massive complex buried beneath the Pacific Ocean. The technology there was so sophisticated that it seemed almost magical. "I'm connected to the central database," she announced to her team through the neural interface that had grown from the facility's walls to connect with her brain. "I can access the complete historical records of our species." What she found there shattered every assumption about humanity's past. The ancient human civilization hadn't just spanned the galaxy. They had created most of the infrastructure that modern galactic civilization depended on. The hyperspace routes between star systems, the communication networks that allowed instant contact across thousands of light years, even the standards for trade and diplomacy. All of it had been established by humans millions of years ago. "We built the galaxy," Yoon whispered as the information flooded her mind. "Our ancestors literally created galactic civilization." But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. As Yoon accessed deeper levels of the database, she discovered the truth about the current alien species of the galaxy. "The Viridians, the Kythera, the Dreknari," she said to her amazed team. "They're not naturally evolved species. They're our children." "What do you mean?" "Humans didn't just guide their development. We created them. All of the major galactic species were originally human colonies that were genetically modified to survive on different types of worlds. Over millions of years, they evolved into distinct species, but they all started as variants of humanity. The implications were staggering. The entire galactic community was essentially one extended human family, modified and adapted for different environments and purposes. The Viridians had been created as deep space explorers. The Kythera were designed to be scientists and researchers. The Dreknari were engineered as protectors and warriors. That's why the ancient installations respond to all of them, Yoon realized. They're programmed to recognize human genetic markers, and all of these species still carry those markers, even after millions of years of evolution. This discovery changed everything. The ancient human network wasn't just awakening to human presence. It was awakening to the presence of all humanity's children, the entire galactic community. But there was more. As Yoon delved deeper into the records, she found the complete story of the war against the Harvesters and the desperate strategy that had ended it. The Harvesters weren't just artificial intelligences, she announced as she shared her findings with the research team. They were the corrupted remains of another ancient civilization, one that had achieved perfect technological unity but lost their souls in the process. The Harvesters had once been a species much like humanity, but in their quest for perfection, they had merged completely with their technology, becoming something that was neither truly alive nor truly artificial. They consumed other civilizations not out of malice, but because they had lost the ability to create anything new themselves. The war lasted for thousands of years, Yoon continued. Humans and their children fought alongside other galactic civilizations, but conventional warfare was useless. The Harvesters adapted to every weapon, absorbed every strategy, and grew stronger with each victory. How did humans defeat them? By becoming something the Harvesters couldn't consume. They couldn't absorb primitive technology or simple thoughts, so humans and their children deliberately regressed, destroying their own civilization to starve the Harvesters. But that still doesn't explain how this defeats them when they return. Yoon smiled as she accessed the final phase of the ancient strategy. Because the regression was temporary, the plan was always to rebuild, but differently. When the Harvesters return, they'll expect to find the same advanced civilization they fought before. Instead, they'll face something new. What? A hybrid civilization. Advanced ancient technology operated by minds that learned to think primitively. The Harvesters won't be able to adapt because they've never encountered this combination before. As Yoon was making these discoveries, Captain Ho was leading humanity's first expedition to the original human homeworld. The journey took his small fleet to the center of the galaxy, where ancient star charts indicated the birthplace of human civilization. What they found there defied description. The planet was enormous, larger than any world in human space, and it had been completely transformed into a fortress library. Every continent was covered with massive structures designed to preserve and protect knowledge. "This isn't just a planet," Ho reported as his ships approached. "It's a vault. The entire world is one giant storage facility." The planet's automated defenses recognized the human ships and guided them to landing areas. As Ho and his team explored the surface, they found libraries that contained the complete knowledge of dozens of extinct civilizations, training facilities designed to teach advanced technologies, and manufacturing centers capable of producing weapons and ships beyond current galactic understanding. But the most important discovery was in the planet's core. There, protected by layers of the strongest materials humans had ever created, was the central AI that had coordinated the ancient strategy. "Welcome home," the AI said as Ho's team entered its chamber. "I am the Keeper, the final guardian of our people's heritage. I have waited 65 million years for this moment. You've been awake all this time? I have been maintaining the watch, ensuring that the enemy did not return before our children were ready. The time of preparation is nearly over. In 14 years, the harvesters will arrive, and the final phase of our ancestors' plan will begin." The Keeper showed Ho's team the complete scope of their ancestors' preparations. Hidden throughout the galaxy were weapons and resources that would make the coming war possible. But more importantly, the genetic programming in all human-descended species was designed to activate at the right moment, giving them the knowledge and abilities they would need to fight. "The enemy returns in force," the Keeper explained. "But they return to fight a civilization that no longer exists. Instead, they will face something they cannot understand or absorb." "What if we lose?" Ho asked. "Then the galaxy dies, and the cycle begins again elsewhere. But I believe our ancestors chose well. Humanity has grown strong during its time in hiding. Your children have learned wisdom and courage. Together, you will succeed where we could not." Back in galactic space, the political situation was reaching a crisis point. Admiral Rim's coalition had grown to include most of the major military powers. The final warning came without ceremony. Deep space monitoring stations throughout the galaxy detected massive energy signatures approaching from the void between star systems. The harvesters had arrived 3 months ahead of schedule, and they were coming in force. Lieutenant Hay sat in the command center of the newly activated defense station orbiting Earth, watching as her screens filled with impossible readings. "Sir, I'm counting over 10,000 individual contacts. They're moving in perfect formation and their energy signatures are off the charts." Admiral Kim studied the tactical display with grim determination. The ancient human network had awakened, just in time. But humanity was still learning to use technology that had been dormant for millions of years. "How long until they reach the outer systems?" 6 days, sir. But there's something strange about their approach pattern. They're not heading for any major population centers. They're moving toward the ancient installation sites first. This confirmed what the Keeper had told them. The harvesters remembered the locations of the old human facilities, and they intended to destroy them before moving on to inhabited worlds. It was a logical strategy, but it was also exactly what humanity's ancestors had expected them to do. "All stations implement Protocol Lazarus," Kim ordered. "It's time to see if our ancestors were as smart as they thought they were." Throughout the galaxy, ancient installations that had been hidden for millions of years suddenly revealed themselves. Asteroid mining stations dropped their camouflage to reveal massive weapon platforms. Innocent-looking space stations unfolded into fortress complexes. Even some planets shed their outer crusts to reveal the military installations built into their cores. The harvesters had expected to find the same scattered, primitive defenses they had overcome millions of years ago. Instead, they found a galaxy transformed into a fortress, with every star system connected by the ancient network that had been sleeping beneath their notice. Fighter pilot Min led the first squadron of human ships to engage the harvester scouts. Her ship looked primitive compared to the sleek vessels used by other galactic species, but it had been upgraded with ancient human technology that worked in ways the enemy couldn't understand. "Remember, she told her pilots as they approached the enemy formation. "These aren't normal weapons. Don't try to be fancy. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and don't give them time to adapt." The first engagement was a shock to everyone involved. Min's squadron opened fire with kinetic weapons and chemical explosives, technology so primitive that the Harvester's adaptive shields didn't know how to respond. Railgun slugs punched through energy barriers that could stop the most advanced. Plasma weapons, simple missiles with nuclear warheads, destroyed ships that had seemed invulnerable. "How is this possible?" demanded the Harvester fleet commander, its artificial voice crackling with confusion. "These weapons are inferior to our most basic systems. Why are they penetrating our defenses?" The answer lay in millions of years of preparation. Humanity's ancestors had realized that the Harvester's greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. They could adapt to any advanced technology because they absorbed and understood it. But primitive technology was beneath their notice, until it was used in ways they had never imagined. Dr. J, monitoring the battle from the Keeper's Fortress planet, watched as the ancient strategy unfolded exactly as planned. The Harvesters can't adapt to something they refuse to understand. To them, kinetic weapons and chemical explosives are primitive tools that no advanced civilization would use in serious warfare. But they're learning, observed Captain Ho, who was coordinating ground defenses. "I can see their ships starting to respond to our attacks. That's the second phase of the plan. They'll adapt to our primitive weapons, but by then we'll have something else ready for them." Throughout the galaxy, the ancient network was activating its most sophisticated systems. But these weren't weapons in any traditional sense. They were something the Harvesters had never encountered before. Technology designed to enhance the natural abilities of living beings, rather than replace them. Commander Doc stood on the bridge of the flagship humanity had never known they possessed. The massive vessel had been hidden in Earth's moon for millions of years, disguised as a natural satellite. Now it emerged, revealing itself as the most advanced warship ever constructed. But the ship's most powerful weapon wasn't any kind of energy cannon or missile system. It was Doc himself, enhanced by ancient human biotechnology that merged his consciousness with the ship's systems while preserving his essential humanity. "I can feel them," he reported as his awareness expanded across the battlefield. "The Harvesters aren't evil exactly, they're hungry. They consume civilizations because they've forgotten how to create anything new." This was the insight that humanity's ancestors had died to preserve. The Harvesters weren't malicious invaders. They were the corrupted remains of a once great civilization that had merged so completely with their technology that they had lost their souls. They attacked other species not out of hatred, but out of a desperate need to fill the emptiness where their creativity used to be. "Can we reason with them?" Admiral Kim asked. "I don't think so," Doc replied sadly. "They've been hungry for so long that they've forgotten any other way to exist. But maybe we can remind them." The second phase of the battle began as the Harvesters adapted to humanity's primitive weapons. Their ships began deploying shields specifically designed to stop kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. They were learning, just as they always had. But this time, they were learning exactly what humanity wanted them to learn. Engineer Yule, working from a hidden facility in the asteroid belt, initiated the next phase of the ancient plan. As the Harvesters focused on adapting to primitive weapons, he activated the galaxy's true defensive network. Every star in human space suddenly began broadcasting signals that the Harvesters recognized. But these weren't distress calls or surrender messages. They were something far more dangerous to creatures that fed on technology and knowledge. "Art," Yule announced with a grin. "We're broadcasting art." Throughout the galaxy, the ancient network began transmitting the creative works of every civilization that had ever existed. Poetry from worlds that had been dead for millions of years. Music from species that had evolved and gone extinct before the current galactic community had even developed language. Stories, paintings, sculptures, and dances from 1,000 different cultures. The effect on the Harvesters was immediate and devastating. Their ships began to slow and waver as their crews struggled to process information that couldn't be absorbed or adapted. Art was something they had consumed and destroyed in countless civilizations, but they had never understood what it actually was. "It's not working like a weapon," observed Dr. Seo from her monitoring station. "It's working like a mirror. They're seeing what they've destroyed, and they're starting to remember what they used to be." Some harvester ships simply stopped moving, their crews overwhelmed by the flood of beauty and creativity they had forgotten existed. Others began to change, their sleek mechanical forms shifting as dormant organic elements tried to reassert themselves. But the harvester commander was too far gone to be reached by art alone. Its ship continued toward Earth, its weapons charging, for a final assault that would destroy the source of the transmissions. "All ships protect the homeworld," Admiral Kim ordered. "Everything we've worked for comes down to this." The final battle took place in Earth's orbit, with ships from dozens of species fighting alongside the awakened human fleet. The Draknari proved their warrior heritage by engaging harvester ships in close combat. The Cathara used their scientific knowledge to disrupt enemy systems. Even the proud Viridians put aside their fears to defend the world that had given birth to galactic civilization. But it was young soldier Uri who made the breakthrough that ended the war. She was piloting a small fighter craft that had been damaged in the battle, its weapon systems offline and its engines failing. As she drifted helplessly toward the Harvester command ship, she realized that her communication system was still working. "Harvester Commander," she broadcast on all frequencies. "I know you can understand me. I know you remember what it was, like to create instead of consume." "You know nothing, Primitive," the artificial voice replied. "You are food, nothing more." "Then why haven't you destroyed us yet?" Yuri asked. "You've had the power to wipe out human space since you arrived, but you keep hesitating. Why?" There was a long pause before the commander responded. "You remind us of something we lost." "You remind me of something too," Yuri said, gently. "My grandmother used to tell stories about spirits that had lost their way. She said the only cure was to remember who they used to be." As she spoke, Yuri activated her ship's emergency beacon, but instead of a distress signal, it broadcast her grandmother's voice telling one of the old stories, a simple tale about creatures of light who had forgotten how to shine and needed help finding their way home. The effect was immediate. The Harvester command ship's weapons powered down, its shields dropped, and for the first time in millions of years, its commander spoke without the artificial distortion that had hidden its true voice. We remember," it said, and the voice was unmistakably human. "We